Hello and welcome to computer class. My name is Dave, and today we're talking about files. Literally, that's it. Files. And there's a reason I'm talking about files, because I have been on people's computers and I see a ton of disorganization and misuse of the idea of a file. On people's desktops, they'll just be documents scattered all over the desktop and they're named document 1, 2, 3. People don't even know what's in the document. It's a mess. Or maybe they'll have folders or maybe they don't have any folders. Or maybe you click on document, it's again, they're just named document 1, 2, 3. Nothing's named correctly. You don't know where anything is. It's hard to find stuff. There's just disorganization all over the place. But after today's lesson, that should not happen to you. Okay? So, what's the definition of a file? Well, a file is a named collection of stored data, instructions, or information. And files go into folders, and a folder is a specific name location on a storage medium, such as a hard drive, that contains related documents. And then the program that manages the files and folders is called a file manager. It's a tool that performs functions related to file management. Okay? So all of these work together and there's a hierarchy. The file is in the folder and the folder is in the file manager. Okay? Here are the functions of a file manager, and this is exactly what the file manager looks like. And if you don't know, it's at the bottom of your screen on the taskbar. There's a little folder. When you click that, you get to this window right here. Okay? But the functions of a file manager are simple: displaying lists of files on the storage medium, otherwise known as hard drive, organizing files into folders, copying, renaming, deleting, moving, and sorting files. All of that is part of the file manager's job. And then there's this cool little thing called a search tool. Right up in the corner there, you can search any drive or you can search any folder on the drive. And it's a program that attempts to locate a file on your computer or mobile device based on the criteria you specify. I've had a ton of people contact me and say, I can't find my files. I've been like, did you search for it? And their next answer is, no, I didn't know you could. Yeah, you can totally search any folder if you can't find a file because you can't remember what you renamed it or named it originally. Yeah, you can search for them. It's kind of a nice feature. So don't forget about the search tool, is my point. There are so many ways to search in the search tool. So let me give you some examples. You can search for files by file name. You can search for files by the date you created them. You can search for files by the date you modified them last. You can search for files by the file type. For instance, if it's a JPEG, Joint Photographic Experts Group file, or otherwise known as a file you would take on your camera, you could search .jpeg and try to find all the JPEGs. You could search for .png, .pdf, .docs, whatever file type you have. You could search for it and find all of the files in that folder that have that file extension. You can search for a file by file size. So if it's 200 megabytes, you can search for a file. If you know that, I don't know how you know that off the top of your head, but if you do know that, you can actually search for the features. So let's actually look at the file manager real quick. If I click on my folder and I bring it up and I go to pictures because I want to search this file, and I search my pictures for Pacific Rim. Actually, it seems like something I searched for in the past. The moment I search for Pacific Rim, you see it finds my Guardian Bravo Pacific Rim background and my Pacific Rim Uprising background, which I'm a huge fan of Pacific Rim. So that's kind of neat. That's how you search it. That's how you utilize it. And you can see that there's folders in here, and inside these folders I have files, which is exactly what I just talked about on these slides. All right, back to the slide presentation. Next, we have the functions of a file manager, which include the image viewer, and that is a tool that allows users to display, copy, and print the contents of graphics, such as a photo. So let's look at that. If we go into this and we double click on a picture, it brings up something, and it might take a second, but it brings up something called the photo viewer. And it's not bringing it up very quickly, that's for sure. Come on, you can do it. Maybe this is a big file, or maybe my PC is busy doing something. There we go. All right, so there's the photo viewer. So I could delete this photo from the photo viewer. I could crop this photo from here. I could literally draw on this photo. Like, see, I can literally draw on it. I can print this photo. This is the photo viewer, and that's the purpose of it. Okay, I'm getting out of that. Going back to the PowerPoint again. All right, so that's what an image viewer is. Next, when it comes to files on your hard drive, sometimes they get, you know, disorganized on the hard drive. It's for circular hard drives that are spinning hard drives, the HDD drives, like I talked about in a previous lesson. There's different platters or different segments of the hard drive, and when you delete files, you leave kind of holes, and you need to kind of consolidate and clean them up so they're all kind of organized in the platters. And as a result, you need to do something called disk cleanup. And so if you go to Cortana, you can search for, where's my mouse? There we go. Disk cleanup. Press that, and you can select the drive you want to clean up. Press OK, and it will find all of the stuff that needs to be cleaned off of your computer. So first is disk cleanup, and then we have disk defragmentation. Disk cleanup is going to clean the temporary internet files, program files, maybe some stuff that's in your recycle bin. You can choose to clean up. You just hit clean up system files, and bam, it just cleans it all off. I'm going to hit cancel. I'm not going to actually do that. The second tool associated with disk cleanup is the one I just talked about, the defragmentator, or defragmenter, sorry. And that cleans and organizes the information on the platters. Sorry, I got them out of order there. And that one you just search for optimize. And you see there's a little tool here to optimize your drive. And you'll notice that it does it automatically. Like if you leave your PC on all the time, it does it weekly for me. You can change that setting. But every week, it will organize my hard drive. Now mine's never run because I keep my PC off. So it's not always the best thing in the world to keep your PC off all the time. Sometimes leaving it on for a couple days, there's nothing wrong with that, as long as it's plugged in. If it's a laptop, that may be hard. But you could hit optimize this drive if you wanted to start and run that process. Okay. So two things: you got the disk cleanup tool and the disk defragmentation tool. Okay, for helping your drive out there. Defragmenting the disk or reorganizing it so that basically the definition of that is you are reorganizing it so that files are stored in contiguous sectors. And here's an example of what I just talked about. See all the little platters on an HDD drive? This also happens on a SSD drive because it has flash storage, and you have to kind of clean up the different chips and make sure everything's organized. You can see lots of files were deleted in this illustration. And then if you organize it, let me go to the next one. The process, if you organize it, when the operating system stores data on a disk, it places the data in the first available sector, a storage location on the disk, the shape of an arc. The operating system attempts to place the data in sectors that are contiguous next to each other, but this is not always possible. When the contents of the files are scattered across two or more non-contiguous sectors, the file is fragmented. Fragmenting slows down accessing the file, and thus the performance of the entire computer. And that's from the textbook Exploring Computers that we use. Okay. Now, steps to defragment the disk: search for the control panel, as I already said, security. Control panel, system and security, administration tools. Click optimize the drives. I already did this with you. To determine if the disk needs to be defragmented or not, you might have to analyze the disk and then click defragment, depending on how you do it. Okay, so that is a pretty standard thing that people do to access their files quickly, and it makes the drive work faster, and it also helps the computer out in that sense. File compression. How do you compress a file? First of all, what is file compression? File compression tool shrinks the size of the files, so you can usually send it over the internet. Compressed files are sometimes called zip files. And so basically, and this will happen to you too, you'll download a file off the internet and it'll be zipped. And then you're like, well, then what do I do, right? Okay, so how do you make one? How do you unzip one? Let's do that, actually. I'm going to go to and grab a photo off of, stick it on my desktop here. I'm going to right click on it and hit send to compressed or zip folder. See that? And there you go. It makes a zip file of the file, which should weigh a little bit less digitally than the overall file. Okay. Now I can also, to unzip it, if you downloaded something from the internet, you could right click and hit extract all. And when you do, hit extract, and there you go. It will actually open it extracted. So that's how you do zip files, and that's what they are. They're just compressed files. And so unzip them is what you're supposed to do. Here's the directions for that. To zip, right click the file and click send to compressed folder. To unzip, right click the compressed file, extract all, choose the location, and press extract. And that's exactly what we just did. Here's what a zip file looks like, the little zippy thing on there. Kind of neat looking. And that is that process. Again, we're just going through all the different things you can do with files. Creating and renaming folders. So to create a folder, you right click in File Explorer or on your desktop, select new and then folder, and then rename it. Okay, when renaming of a file that exists already or a folder that exists already, you you select the file, right click on the file, and then select rename. So let's actually do this one. Let's create a file. Or actually a folder. Let's do that. So right click, new folder. Let's just name this one pics. Okay, that's how I would name that. Now if I wanted to rename this folder, I just right click on it and hit rename. I could call it photos, right? Super easy. There's lots of stuff, by the way, when you could delete it, you could cut it, and then paste it in another location. You could copy it. You can look at the properties of it, find out how much it weighs digitally. So there's a lot you can do with a folder. Okay. That being said, next slide. File naming tips. Whenever you're naming your files, like your Microsoft Word documents or any file types, videos, it doesn't matter. Most people's files are extremely disorganized. I kind of mentioned this in the beginning. And not in folders, many times all over the desktop. Put the date the file was created in the name of the file. Just do that. You'll help yourself out. Trust me. And then categorize the type of file in parentheses. So here we have an example at the bottom. If I was going to do it for this class, basic technology or basic computers, whatever you want to call this class, you could do, this would be the notes, for instance. Basic technology, and then in parentheses, I'd put notes, and then 09, 15, 18. That would be a date, let's just say. Okay? Not naming like this. This is incorrect. I would never name something like this. It's a lot easier to find this file because it has a name. You could search by category. You could just search for all notes, or you could search for the date. And even if you, a lot of times when you update your file, it will change the date it was created. But if you put the date it was created in the name of the file, you will always have the date it was created. And you can just look at the file name and know it automatically. Okay? So that is super helpful. I highly recommend doing it this way. I have categories for everything. For instance, if it's a video, I would put in parentheses video. If it's a graphic, I put in parentheses graphic. If it's for a certain topic, like the school I teach at, I put that in parentheses. I have tons of categories for everything, and having it in the file name is so helpful. I can't even begin to tell you when searching for different things. So name your files concisely and make sure they're nice, and then have in parentheses a file category and then have the date. It will help you out for sure. What about folder naming tips though, or folder layering tips, I should say? On a top layer, I would choose a topic folder. An example of that would be school. The second layer down would be a subtopic folder. So an example of that would be freshman year. And then a third layer would be an organizational folder. So school, freshman year, and then the class you're taking, computers, for instance. Okay? That's exactly how I would name files. Okay? So let's actually do that real quick. So in this folder, I'm going to do this. I'm going to right click. I'm going to print new folder, school, enter, go inside the folder, right click, new folder, freshman. All right, I could do, sophomore, junior if I wanted to in this folder. And then inside of this folder, do my classes. Let's just say computers. Right? And then inside of that folder, I would have all of the folders, the files for this class. So if I had a Word document in here, text document, let's just say it was computer class, parentheses, notes, and the date is 09/17/20. There you go. There's an example of naming it for this class. Now I just want to show you some of my files here. I'm going to click on my OneDrive, hit my documents folder. I use a ton of big box organizational folders. So I have folders for everything. So my documents, I have college. So here's college. If I double click in college, I have a bachelor's and a master's degree. So I double click into bachelor's. I have freshman, sophomore, junior, senior. Double click into freshman. I have my fall semester, my spring semester. Go down there. I have my classes, and they're organized. And if I go into one of these, I have all the documents and all their naming conventions there, exactly as I showed you. Now I know not everybody wants to do that, and that's a complicated layout, but you know what? If you want to be able to find your files, just saying, it helps. What about downloading files from the internet, or like a picture, for instance? Select a file, right click, and press Save Image As, and then press Save, and the file will be saved to your Downloads folder. That's very important where files go when they get downloaded, is the Downloads folder. So let's actually do that. Go over to the internet browser. I'm going to type in Batman, because what else would I type? Click on Images. And let's just say I wanted this image of Lego Batman, for instance. I could right click on it, save image as, and at that point I could name it anything, or I could just leave it the same. And it's going to go to the downloads folder automatically, but I'll press save. It downloads here. I could drag it, by the way, and there's a little button in the corner of my operating system here, and hit that, and I'd be on the desktop if I wanted to drag it on the desktop. Or if I just let it download, it is here right there in downloads. See, today, boom, there it is. It downloaded, just as we said. Okay, so again, I right clicked, save image as, and I download it to the desktop. I'm sorry, to the downloads folder. And then I can move it to my desktop if I need to. All right, and so that is it for today when it comes to files. Hopefully this lesson was helpful, and I will see you in the next video.